Hope everybody's joining in. Well, hello, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending on where you're joining from. We are so happy to have you with us today. We're going to give people a couple minutes to join in before we kick off our new community conversation expert talk. And so while we're waiting, I'd just like to see where everybody is calling in from. And so if you could put into the chat, where are you at this moment? I'm coming to you from South Central Pennsylvania. It is a cold, rainy, gloomy day here. And so I'm very excited to be here with you all today. And hopefully I can see all of your smiling faces. All right, so everybody's, wow, that's going like really fast. So we've got Lena from Moscow, that's awesome. Brett from Nebraska coming in. Jason from Florida, Sarah from Colorado. Hello, everybody. Another Molly from Nebraska. Seems to be popular this morning. And of course, Rachel from San Diego, David from Baltimore, Jason from Tennessee. There you go, Donnia. All set for you. Brett from Nebraska, a lot from Nebraska. Wonder what the correlation is there. Marshall from Minnesota. Mike from North Carolina. I love North Carolina. Vacation there every year. Awesome place. We've got Ellen from Texas. Magnus from Sweden. This is awesome. Philippe from Paris. Hi, Philippe. Chris from Michigan. Jan from North Carolina. So all over today. This is fantastic. Miguel from Portsmouth, United Kingdom. Shannon from Minneapolis. William from Rockford, Ohio. Marie is from sunny and warm Vancouver, Washington. I'll trade you, Marie. I'll fly out there today. Laura from Venezuela, but based in Dublin. Hello, everyone. Good to see you. We'll let this go for another minute or so as people are still joining. Sunny St. Paul, Michael, in Minnesota. I love Minnesota. I've been there a few times. Okay, who else? Gregory from Milwaukee and Vivek from Dubai. That is amazing. Okay, starting to slow down. So how about if we go ahead and we'll kick it off. So welcome to our new community conversations hosted by the Autodesk community. Our community conversations are new live virtual events designed to allow you to gain expertise, connect with leaders, and grow your community network. My name is Kimberly Furman, and I will be your community host. We are joined today by the talented and always entertaining Donnia Tabor-Hanson, an Autodesk Revit certified professional, and some of you might know her also as CAD Mama. Today we'll be discussing Revit family types and templates. So I recently started working for Autodesk as the new Revit community manager. But before that, I spent many years in the architectural industry, and I got to know Donnia through Augie. She has the most bubbly personality you will ever meet and is a whiz when it comes to creating and maintaining Revit families. Donnia, will you tell us a little bit about yourself before we dive in?
Sure. Donnia Tabor-Hanson, I've been at this since AutoCAD version 1.2. Yes, I said 1.2. So I've been working in AutoCAD, but I have gone to Revit. I went to the dark side, went to Revit quite some time ago, and I just enjoy it. And I have gravitated toward the families because I find that it's more fun to build. I mean, big models and stuff are fun, but I like building things that's going to make everything work. And I like the intricacies of them and the rules of them. And I'm going to be going through a lot of families, a lot of rules and stuff through this entire series. And I really hope that you guys get something out of it, because I know I enjoy sharing.
That's awesome. Thank you for being here today, Donnia. Go to the next slide. Some ground rules and norms before we begin today's conversation. First of all, everyone's line is muted to reduce background noise, but we do invite you to keep your camera turned on as comfortable so that we can get as close to a physical environment, see all of your smiling faces in our new virtual world. This conversation should be exactly that, a conversation. Use the resume raise hand function and our moderator will unmute you to ask a question. And Donnia will also be taking questions throughout and also at the end. You can also type questions in the chat at any time. And third, this session is being recorded and will be emailed to all attendees and also uploaded to the Community Conversations site. Next slide. Okay, and so just quickly, our safe harbor statement. If we make any forward-looking statements, I don't want you to make any purchase decisions based on those statements. If you are making purchasing decisions, look at the software in its state today and that alone. Additionally, Donnia Tabor-Hanson is joining us today as a customer expert and is independent of Autodesk. All activities, advice, and opinions shared by Donnia should not be directly linked to Autodesk. And this is what you can expect from our community conversations. So this is going to be a place where we'll have expert speakers come in. They may be Autodesk employees or customers like Donnia, partners and students. We are looking for knowledge sharing, and we're going to be asking questions, hosting discussions, and learning from each other. And of course, making new connections with our speakers and attendees. So again, we hope that this is a new type of community for you and that you get to know others that are participating. Next slide. The sessions are always supported by Autodesk community managers to help guide our conversation, feed important insights back from the community to Autodesk, and support participants in getting connected to the expertise you need. And with that, I'm going to hand it over to Donnia.
All right. Thank you for the shout outs on the chat. And thanks, Chris. No, we're not playing Rocket Talk today. So let's just talk about Revit families now. And we're going to talk about how you start looking at the Revit families and how you choose to make your own template, because making your own template just gives you the added benefit of having some things preset. So welcome to the first of what we hope to be many topics on Revit families. I will be sharing what I've learned over the years using Revit. I've worked in a variety of fields in Revit, but no matter what company I work for, like I said, I always come back to families and how to make them, how to get them to do what I expect them to do and what the project needs. So let's get into it. Today's meetup flow is I'm going to be talking about first about Revit elements and family types so that we're all talking the same language. And we're going to talk about some model elements, some data elements, view specific elements, how to choose a template, and then we're going to have some Q&A, and then we're going to preview some upcoming topics. So some of these are going to be, some of them we've talked a little bit about system families, some about loadable families, and the best thing I hope is at the end to have some Q&A time for us to go through the things. Oh, and one of our sessions that I want to come up with, one of these times we may just have just a family counseling time where you can bring your families to the session and do some counseling. So there's other things to look forward to besides just me talking all the time. I want to get some community conversation going here with you guys over the time we're working on these topics. So the Revit elements and family types, I've got them broken down into, you guessed it, a family tree. You gotta have a family tree. And this is the Revit family tree, starting with the basic Revit family elements. It's not all inclusive, but it does give us a little breakdown of the types of family and the three categories: model, datum elements, and view specific elements. And throughout this series, like I said, I hope to dive deeper into each one of these in future sessions. But let's start with, under the model section of the family tree, you'll find building models. These are the most fun of all. We know that we like to work in building the models, and I think we can all agree with that. And here we have families that are hosting families as well as component or loadable families. So let's look at some of the elements under this side of the tree. They are considered system families. the walls, the roofs, the ramps and stuff. So let's pop over to Revit. And I'm going to open up my family tree project that I've set up just to play around with. And you're going to see some of the basic things that we would see. I've got some walls, I've got some doors, I've got a ramp. I've got a stair in here. And to see what it is in 3D, you can come here and see what we've got. So these are all families that are system families, except for the door and the window. These are all system families built in. So let's go and see how some of these families interact. On the second floor, I know I don't have a floor. So as a system family, I can come up here and go to floor. And when I'm on my pick walls, I can hover, tab, pick. Y'all know how to do this. Let's make sure that I get a space for my stairwell. Yeah, that's pretty good. Well, let's go 10 on that. And close it. And then let's just drop a section view. Yeah, we'll let it go ahead and cut into. See, these families know how to react with each other. That's one thing that's so nice about Revit families is they're not so dysfunctional at times. They actually play together nicely, right? So I'm gonna drop a section in here and let's look at how these system families are playing together and acting nicely. Oh, I'm not gonna see much in a coarse view, so let's go to a fine view. I thought I told that to interact with the walls. I obviously didn't. No, okay. Anyway, no, didn't mean to go there. So you see the roof is connected up here to the roof. I didn't interact my floor with my walls. I'm not going to go back and redo that. You've seen that many times. So, you know, it's just Revit is so smart. You know, it's almost as smart as some of my grandkids. So that's why we know it's very smart and how it interacts with things. And then there's also how we can look at a family that is hosted, but is also a system family would be a rail. I'm going to use one of my favorite shortcuts, CS, after selecting that. And then I can just use pick line and come around here. And I know some of you are going, that's not working. You know, that's not working, right? Because let's see, I'm gonna go out a foot on that. And when I finish that rail, well, that's not so smart because I didn't pick its host to begin with. So now let's go pick its host. You see how smart it can be? It gets these families going. They're so smart working with each other. So now let's go look at some of the component families. This is where we're talking about building templates. So a component section, for the component sections, there's some components that need host, doors, windows, light fixtures. Some components will just go on the current level and they'll be happy to reside there. They're just, okay, fine, you just put me there, I'm so happy. And a lot of times these loaded components, they're loaded from outside of Revit by an RFA family type. And it does matter how you load some of these families. So I'm going to go back over here and let's go to the second floor again. Let's put on the second floor for some reason. And if you go to component and you say load family, you're going to be presented with where the families are. And let's say I want to go get some windows. And I want to go, give me a single hung and some fixed, just a plain fixed family. Yeah, it may be a double hung. And I'm selecting by holding the control key and selecting 3 of them. And then it brings me up here and I can go to the double hung family and pick on, and somebody just says, oh my gosh, I've never seen that happen before. You didn't know you could do that. Holding down the control key, I can do this. Go to another family up here and pick hold of some other sizes and go to the third and pick on some other sizes. And I can load those families. And then I can wait for the hourglass to come back after that is done and give me, it's not going to give me, it's got to press, there it is. There's the error. And some of you noticed I went in through component, load family, and I went to window. You can load windows with that, but you can't put them in with that. Do you want to try reloading? Yeah. No, I'll just do that. So I can come over here and look in my families under my browser, under my windows, And yeah, it didn't load them. So I would have to go through the window component to load windows. So let me go back and just load a window or two. Give me some fixed. And give me double hung. Rinse and repeat. So it's a matter of, you've got to learn where things are. And most of you knew that I was going to have this happen, but I did it on purpose so I could just be able to show you. You got to make sure you know where you're going and what you're loading. And then once I get some windows in through the window command, it's going to let me go ahead and pick a window. And you know to pick to the outside of the wall to place the outside of your window out there. The arrow always shows the outside. I can change the windows here to whatever windows I have loaded and put windows around. Easy peasy. Now, what about other loadable families? Let's just see what I've got in here. Well, I've got a troffer. I should have a desk. Don't forget about the search for families that you can just type in, and there's somebody else just goes, I've never seen that before. And bring in a desk and place it in here. So I'm working with the component family. That desk is not hosted. It's just a family that comes in, will sit right on the floor where it was placed. So that's our loadable families. Let's go back over here and let's look at grids, levels, and reference planes. Now, next month, I'm going to talk a great deal about reference planes and starting with reference planes and the rules of reference planes inside of a building families, but they can also be used inside of a project. And they are finite planar elements, just the same as levels and grids are planar elements. So coming back over here, I don't have any grids. So if I go to get a grid under architecture, go get a grid line. 2. Well, that tells you that I've put a grid line in before in practicing this. So I'm going to set this one to 1. And then, of course, the next time I do one, it's going to be a 2. And notice how I try to line them up. And automatically wants to line them up together. And when I go to an elevation, nope, don't scroll. Don't scroll there. I can see that they went just above wherever I had some geometry. Well, if this grid doesn't want to go up through there, let me just get the grid. I can pull him down here. Well, he brought his friend because they were locked together. So maybe I need to come over here and unlock this one and pull it up here. Well, because they're planar, they will only show up within the planes that they are. So the reason I wanted to do this is to show you that now that I'm on the 2nd floor, the only grid level 2, the grid 2 showed up because it didn't pass through that floor. It is planar. Now, to really bring home the idea of planar, let's go to a 3D view and zoom out. If you select hold of your level lines that are also planar, you see that it shows you where its plane is. Plain and simple, right? No, I'm sorry. So it is planar. You want to make sure that your levels are going outside of your building, but then you'll have something happen where, let's go back to that section view. And we're going to talk in great detail about these next month when we do the levels and grids and reference planes. And we'll have an architect come in here like this and come in here and go, oh, I need a level for a roll lock. So I'm going to go get architectural level and I'm going to put one in here. Oh, he's going the wrong way. Maybe I should uncheck here. Maybe I should check over here. He remembers which way he was drawn, by the way. He knows that which way is drawn, and it matters which way. And we'll discuss all that next week. But I wanted to do this to show you what happens when you go to a 3D view. Now look at this. He's only in that area. So if I go to do that section view, we decided to do the wall section on this side, I'm going to lose him because he doesn't pass through that area. Planar. So those are the datum elements that are very constrictive, and they're things that you will use to reference off of and to help lock your project down. So you want to be careful about how they're drawn. So come back next month and we're going to dive into that even deeper. Now, for the documentation families. Documentation projects is taken care of by annotated families, such as notes, tags, dimensions, and some symbols. Notes and dimensions are system families, so you develop them inside your projects, where tags and symbols are annotative components and can be loaded. And it's important to note that all annotative families are view specific. They don't show anywhere up if they're not placed. And I'm just going over the rules. I'm going to go over a lot of family rules, and you're going to go, I know that. Well, the reason I'm doing it is to make sure we all talk the same language. So if I come in here and just grab a tag, I can start tagging my windows. See where I changed windows. Tag the desk? Nope, no furniture tag. Well, how about if I go to, this is, you want to load one? Yeah, I just want to load one now. What about go to the first floor. What if I want to tag the rail? TG. You want to load one? Well, how about if I create one? If I want to create a tag, I want to say File, New. No, I said new under projects, did not cancel. File, New, Family. And I want to go to annotations and find me that rail tag. Not that. We'll come back to that. I have a reason for doing that. We'll come back to that because there's a way of getting to that. And we're going to discuss that here in just a minute when I do something else. But I just want to make a point. You may not always find what you're looking for, so you may have to learn to create it. So we talk about the model families because we love creating those little models, but sometimes you need to look at your annotation stuff as well. The next is our 2D dimensional objects, lines, and regions. They're system families, again, created inside the project. But then there's detail components that are loadable RFA families, and they're also view specific. So back over here on this, I can go look at under annotative. I can look at, well, insulation. We'll not when we put it in the plans, usually in elevation, but I can go get one of those and I can change it out as it needs to be. Put it where it wants. Any of these and a component. What I've got a roll lock or let's, standard shapes. Some of these families are the type of things that you need to draw or get from the libraries and stuff, but they also will only show up in the view that they're created in. So, before we start looking at a template, I want you to start looking at some questions, Kimberly, and see if there's anything that is pertinent to what we have done so far that has come in. Or does anybody have a question about anything so far?
We haven't had any questions yet. We did get one. One person said, this is awesome. So great job. Keep going. Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Any other questions?
No, don't forget you can raise your hand. You can call on you, or you can put something in the chat to prompt us to reach out to you. Okay. Keep going, they say.
Keep going. This is great.
Yay. Awesome. So with a variety of templates that are available, you got to know which one to start with. You got to choose one that's the closest match to what the family.
Hey, Donnie, we did get one question real quick. Yeah. Sorry. Was the family type selector, was that something new in Revit 2020?
No. So, like I said, I knew somebody was going to get that one. Yeah. It was like, whoa, that's cool. That search. Oh. So that's why I like to hit around on some things that seems like everybody should know, but then some people may not have run across that before. It's always fun. Okay, so with a variety of templates available with which to start, you got to choose one that's closest match, closest to the family you're going to build. And there are so many to choose from. But you want to make sure that you're going over, is it going to be a hosted family? Does it need to connect to a wall, a door, a ceiling, a floor, something? Is it not hosted? How about a profile? Let's not forget profile families. There's something you may have to do sometimes, especially if you're doing very unique rails, or with me a lot, it's backsplash sweeps and stuff. Are you going to have to create a detail? Don't forget, all these different things that you can do. Annotations, title blocks. If you're in charge, if you're the BIM manager, you may have to know how to do title blocks and stuff. Tags, we're going to look at a tag. I promised that we could come back and look at that rail tag in a minute. And you got to choose your category. Category is very important in some families as to how they're going to react with other things, how they're going to be hosted or locked onto, or their visibility can be something. So you need to look through all these different things. So when you go to choose a family template, you have a lot to choose from. And a component or annotative template can be pretty easy as long as they have what you want. But be sure to look for the ones that, watch out for the ones that say based, because those are dependent on having another family attached. So if it's a wall-based, if we're looking at the face-based, floor-based, line-based, pattern-based, etc., everything does not have to be a generic model. Just, it doesn't. Please no. And we're going to talk about some of the rules of generic models and when they work beautifully and then when I don't want them to work for me. So you also need to know, is your family, if it's a hosted family, they're limited to the host being there. And for some, if the host is a wall, will it be there? Because cases like ours, I regret I did not mention the type of work I do. I've been in the architecture world, but now I'm in kitchens. I build kitchen equipment all the time. So in cases like ours, we're dependent on the architect to give us the model with the walls and the floors in there. Now, that intern architect that's over there may delete that wall. And then he may put one back. Oh, no, and they put it back. Well, it's a different wall as far as Revit is concerned. So if I hosted something to that wall, which, by the way, I won't do because I don't make anything that's wall hosted because of that. But if they do move things, you know, I got to make sure it's whatever is going to be there is going to be there. So I have a tendency not to make anything that's hosted because I can't depend on the wall, not the architect, the wall to be there, for example. So it can get real tricky. So how about your, you know, if the desired host going to be in the model or referenced in, yeah. Does the family need to be a certain category? Not everything should be classified as generic, like I said, but it needs to be lighting or specialty. Does the family need to set on something other than a level? I mean, can an offset be sufficient to move it up and down, the offset option that you have for families? This is important for things that go on like countertops for my team. And I bet you could think of things that you might have in your projects that don't sit on the floor that you may want to have upset. So do you want to have it where it's hosted on something else?
Well, it looks like we lost Donnia for a moment. So I'll take any questions that I can possibly answer in the chat, you know, or you can raise your hand, certainly ask those. I've been using Revit since 2007, and you know, I might not be quite as bubbly as Donnia, but I'll certainly try to answer your question if I can while we wait for her to come back. I know she was having some internet problems, so hopefully she'll be back on soon.
Realities of this life where we're all working from home. I'm sure
right.
all of you can relate.
Yes.
I don't see any questions in the
so
chat.
Tim had asked a question about the type selector and then actually asked me a follow-up question. So to answer his question while we're waiting, that is actually the type catalog, and that's associated with certain families that have many sizes built into the family. So for example, she was loading, I believe, the window. Just loading in the window family. It had so many sizes available. It's just a way to kind of clean up your Revit family category so that you don't have to load all 15 or 30 sizes of windows into your project. Okay, you can select from the type catalog and say, I only want to load these 3 sizes. That's all I need in my project. And so it's a way to kind of keep your models clean. I'm always one of the philosophy of keep it simple, silly, or, others. And so try to keep your models clean, only load what you need, get rid of the rest. You can always reload it later if you need it. So any other questions? Anybody want to chime in or ask? We can make this an interactive discussion. Okay, so Heel says, why does Revit not provide simple option to remove the host of hosted families? Yeah, so that is sometimes difficult when you have a hosted family to make it non-hosted. The way there is a workaround that sometimes works, it sometimes doesn't work. And that is to actually create a new generic family that is not hosted and import the hosted family into a generic family. At that point, or you could, it's been a little bit since I've been using actually Revit in production, but you could create that family, bring it into a generic family, and sometimes changing the category will also help. So, a couple different workarounds for that, but you can definitely work, work with the hosting, make it face-based, things like that. Okay, why is it when you set to a shared family and you click on non-shared, it won't allow you to do it? Okay, I'm not real clear about that question, Simon. So we could unmute you if you wanted to kind of talk about that one. Shared family to non-shared. Yeah, that one I'm not really sure about. Maybe somebody else has an answer to that question. Feel free.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes. Hi, Simon.
All right.
How are you?
Hi, how's it going?
Good.
Every time when I click on shared, and then let's say I load into my project, and then when I go back to my family and click on non-shared, and then when you load it back to the project, it says that nope, can't do it. It won't allow you to reverse the process. So when you click on shared, it remains shared forever, unless you basically go in there and rename the new family and load back in, and then just swap all those shared family with non-shared. So I think this is kind of cumbersome. There should be a way to kind of say, click on shared and non-shared means that it's just a one click of a button.
Right.
So that's one of the things I always find it very challenging.
Yeah. So as far as being shared or unshared, do you mean the parameter itself or the family itself?
Was that Simon? Oh,
sorry about that. Yeah.
Hello, how's it going? Well, basically, shared and unshared, there is one inside of family, like in all templates. Adaptive component by default set to shared, but the traditional family, they don't put it as shared. It's check off by default. So it's basically there's an inconsistency between both. I use both, and then sometimes I accidentally load adaptive component into the project itself, and it's set to shared, which I don't want to do it.
Gotcha.
So yeah, it's
that makes sense.
Yeah.
Yep. Absolutely. Let's see.
So so I want to give people a quick update. Donnia had a power outage at her house.
Oh no.
So, April Fool's Day, we took a chance that, something like that might happen. But so she's working to get back together and back on.
Okay.
Thanks, Kimberly, for taking questions.
Sure, no problem.
Hand go up. Paul, did
Paul,
you hand it?
The mighty Paul Albin is on this
Oh,
call.
that's awesome.
So let's unmute him.
Unmute him. Okay.
Hi, Paul. How are you?
Oh, we can't hear him. He's got to fix something with his microphone.
The April Fools of technology.
I wasn't sure if this was going to be a year that anybody would feel able to make an April Fool's joke. I've only seen one so far.
Yeah.
How about now?
Oh, there we go.
There.
So I'm recording this week, and I do that on a laptop. So that means the headset was connected to that. And so I was just listening through the speakers, but apparently the microphone doesn't work that way. Anyway, sorry about that. So the hosting question, and what was the other one? The shared family question. Shared family question is a little bit easier. You can't replace a shared family with a non-shared family, but you can do the reverse. So if it's a non-shared family and you bring in a shared version of it, it will replace just fine. But if you try and do it in reverse, it says, no, sorry, can't do that. And it's a hierarchy problem. So what you have to do instead is, if there's already a shared version of the family in the model and you want to replace it with a non-shared version, then you change the name, right, of one of them, doesn't matter which one, you bring it in, and then once they're both in the project, you can simply select the shared version and on the type selector, swap it out with the non-shared, and that will work fine. It just won't let you replace it in the load family dialog. I hope that made sense, and I can actually demonstrate if you need to see it. I linked a few videos in the chat, but unfortunately, I think they're behind the paywall, so my apologies for that. The hosted thing is, the workaround is kind of clumsy, but if you use the coordination tools, why am I spacing out on what that's called right now? Copy Monitor. There's a hack workaround that you can use Copy Monitor to kind of remove the host from a hosted family, like a wall-based or a ceiling-based or something like that. So it's clumsy. It only works with certain categories. So ideally, you would build the family over again, which is kind of a sucky answer, but that's really the best way to get the best results. But to Kimberly's point, if it's face-based, you can just bring it into, nest it into another family and host it on a work plane, and that will work. But I don't think that works with a wall-based or a ceiling-based, because it's going to be looking for a wall or a ceiling. So, I mean, if you got really deep into the hacky weeds, you might be able to get around that too. But by the time you've done all that, it might be easier to just build it over again. So, and you can copy the geometry. So you can copy and paste the geometry. It's just that you'd have to reestablish all the parameters and stuff. So if you've got some really complicated family, creating it over again could be kind of awful. Yeah. So sorry, it's not a great answer, but that's what we're dealing with.
Thank you so much, Paul, for jumping in on that. We've
got this is community at work. That's beautiful. And I think we have Donnia back.
We do.
Yes. We're going to have somebody step in for me. I am so thankful it's Paul.
Hello, Donnia. I don't know if you know, but we could hear you cursing at your computer at the very end.
I didn't curse. It was, I did a freaking thing.
All right. I'll give it back to you.
Thanks.
The one thing we didn't try to care for, I mean, you guys don't understand the camera issues. I had to buy a camera. We're good now. Can you see my screen where it says choose wisely? Is that what you're seeing?
Yes, it's good.
Oh, fantastic. They swap monitors and everything. So that was fun. Can we delete that from the recording? Okay, so the offset suffice. So, okay, when you're choosing your template, you need to know things about things before you select your template. Know your users, know what they're used to seeing, know what they're used to working with. Know your project types. For example, I'm in kitchens. Guess what? I had to work with, when I got here, I had to start working in fractional inches instead of feet and inches. The architectural brain in my head hurt for about 3 months before I finally got used to it. But then I know my project types now. They work, everything in the kitchen, what's a 36-inch range? It's a 24 by 36 shelf. Everything's in inches to them. So know your project types. You need to know your tags and your schedules, because those are the things you're going to have to put in, your parameters. And we're going to talk more about parameters next month. Know your family rules. This is what I mean about the rules of family is like, know why a generic model is the way it is, know why specialty is the way it is, know why plumbing is the way it is. Some of it has to do with the things that you want to filter in and out of your view templates or something, but there are some other rules, and we're about to look at some in particular. An example of family rules is to deal with whether or not you have a generic versus plumbing or specialty. And here I have an example of 2 pieces of equipment. I've got them in a 3D view, and I've got them in a section view, and I've got them in plan view. And as you can see, I've got the description of their categories as generic or specialty. One is each. And they're just sold dish tables and stuff. So let's jump over to Revit and let me open that. Oh man, I just did the wrong Revit. Sorry, my 2020 just I must have moved it on my screen. This is so much fun. Okay, so I'm going to go into this view and look at the difference in between a generic and a specialty, or it could be a plumbing or any other families. Some families will let you cut through them in a section, some won't. And I can look at this in a 3D view and show you what it's shaped like. I can see I've got rolled edges. I got a dump sink in this one. I have a big backsplash. This is the turnouts that go in. These ends go into the dishwasher. That's why it turned like that. But when I go into the plan view, and let me go ahead and bring up this section view. And with them side by side, let's keep an eye on this little view right here, because that's the generic view. And when I take this section view and start moving him back, oh look, now I can see the sink. The view on the specialty equipment does not change. The specialty equipment will show you front view only, no matter how far out I go. Even when I quit cutting up, now it's because of the cut plane. I just took my, yeah, I took that out of the crop region. So even then when I turn it around, if I flip this, I'm now seeing the back of that view. So I'm now seeing the back of that. So it does matter whether you're getting, you need to know the rules. Generic models will let you cut. So they do like their tables to be cut sometimes in their dish rooms. So I make generic models a lot out of some of the dish tables that we use. So you got to know the rules. How is it going to work? Does it do this? Does it do that? Know your families. So also the one thing you need to do is look at each category has its own object styles. So when I go into my visibility graphics, I can have specialty equipment with the hidden lines and such, but then I could also have generic models with hidden lines and such. So that's going to fill up your visibility graphics with the different ones, no matter what you have in there. And you can do all kinds of one. Now here's a fun one. We do a lot with clearances and we do specialty equipment. Notice I have 1, 2, 3 different clearances. One of them is misspelled completely, but that's, yeah, I didn't build that family, just so you know. Our clearances are the ones down here that we use. All of our clearances have clearance, not clearances. And all of our details have details, and then we have different things. So I'll find like, here's door swing up here. I would use door and drawer. So it's a matter of, you're going to, by having your own template, you're going to eliminate the chance that somebody's going to mistype something, trying to put something in. You're going to have more control over how your different subcategories are going to be set up, because you're going to be the one controlling them. So you want to choose wisely when you're starting a template. And here's my plan for today's template. I'm going to do a plumbing fixture. For this type, I need, plumbing. I'm going to do a floor drain. It's going to be floor based, so I need it to connect on the floor. I want to make sure that materials are the same that I use in all my families, so that I have my clearances and stuff are always set. They're always set the right color, and my stainless steel. Goodness knows, I got to use a lot of stainless steel, a lot. So I get my object styles also to match. I want to make sure my project units are set up to fractional, because that's what we work with. And it's really fun when you're doing catalogs to know you got to make sure it's set properly, because one of the first families I made when I came over here was a shelving family. When they put it in, it came in 12 times the size, because I had not compensated for inches in my family. I made it in feet, and that wasn't nice. So it is important to know your projects. And then I want to make sure I need to know all my parameters. You need to know what is in your schedules, your electrical, your plumbing, your mechanical, for me, your identity data. It's got to be put in there properly. So with that in mind, I'm going to go get me a plumbing floor-based but there's not one. When I go in there, I see plumbing fixture, but then over here, there's a generic model floor-based family that I can start with. So let's start with that and let's make it a plumbing. So I can get out of here. We're done with, no, I don't want to save you. I'll use and abuse that one later. So let's go here to a new family. And I'm going to go get plumbing fixture. Nope, what did I say? I'm going to get generic model floor-based. And in here, I've got a floor base. I hate that I can't do anything with those lines, the lines that are in there. I don't have any parameters in here. You can see I've got some identity data, but basically not the parameters I need. And it's not the size, the type I need. So I'm going to tell it now that I want you to be a plumbing fixture. So now when I go in here, I have got plumbing fixture information in here. When I go to my object styles, I have, come on, over here, you can do it, over here. Make that go away. I have my plumbing fixture categories built in. So since I've changed it over to plumbing fixtures. So let's talk just real briefly about that tag again. File, new, family, annotation, generic tag. I want to be a tag. They didn't have a rail tag. So again, with that rail tag, I can come in here and I can make a railing tag. So see, you can get they don't have a family template for everything, but you can probably get one close and change it to that. So that's why I wanted to mention that railing tag early, and I told you I'd come back to it. So I did. So once we get in there and, you know, I made it plumbing. After choosing a template to start with, let's start by setting up the things that you need. Basic common attributes and stuff for the family is going to be my project units, minimal dimensions for a typical family, and object styles that I'm going to need, the materials I need, my shared parameters that I want to have in my template all the time. And most of this is found on the Manage tab. So I'm going to go back over to Revit, and I start here with the project units. And everything's popping up on the wrong screen now. And I come here, make sure that I've got my fractional inches. And I'm going to go and open, I've got a family materials project. This is something, this is a nice little hint to have. It's got the materials in it that I use a lot. It's got the line types and stuff that I use a lot. So here under Manage, I can see, you know, I've got, there's my clearances and my mandatories. It's what I need in almost all my families. So it's got my materials, my QF clearances and stuff. It's got the things that I use a lot built into it. So I'm going to come over here to this family, and I'm going to use transfer project standards. And I'm going to transfer, check none. I just want materials and objects over. So now I've got override. Now I've got the materials and object styles that I want to use all the time. Remember, I'm just making a template. I don't want to build anything yet. So the next thing that I would do, as I've looked at my project units, I'm going to look at some dimensions and stuff slightly. We just want to put the basic dimensions in here. We want to get, I'm waiting on my dynamo to load up too. We want to get reference planes and put in basically just some minimum. Again, reference planes are a big subject next month. They're really big if I go straight too. There's rules about reference planes that you may or may not know about. It depends on, it does matter which way they're drawn. It matters which way that they are set up. Equal that out. Some minimal things would be just to give me my width, my depth, and my height. Notice I did not call any one of those length. I did in some of my first families, I admit it. But when you think about it, they're all lengths. Matter of fact, when you go to put a parameter on one of these, you go to put it on, guess what category it comes up under? It's a length. So this would be my width, and it's going to be a type. This would be my depth, and it's going to be a type. And then I can go set these to about the average of what I would do, and then 58 is probably big. Let's go down to 24. If I'm going to do a forward ring, it's going to be much smaller than that, but this is something I can start with for my template. Now, to get my parameters on, I'm going to show you a little bit about this. I've got a dynamo. I'm going to share this with you where I got it. It's the Aussie BIM guru. Some of y'all might know him. I will put that link in our chat where you logged in and where you signed up for this this conversation. There's going to be a place where you can go and put chats down there, and I'm going to put the links to the videos for this. And we're going to actually discuss these a lot next month. We're going to talk about these. So I'm just teasing you a little bit with them here. I've got all these things here. I can go at electrical parameters, electrical and gas, cold water. I just want my indirect waste. This is a drain. So I'm going to do indirect waste. And I'm just going to run this little rascal. And then we're going to go look at the parameters that I've got. And you're going to see that I know everything of my indirect waste parameters that have to go in my schedule. So I put them in an Excel sheet, and there's a way you set the Excel sheet up. And sure enough, here's all my indirect and my plumbing remarks that I would need. I've come down here and I've got my food service schedule, my item CFA that we use for chains. That's a chain and the item number. If it's not a chain, my TM utilities is a parameter that we use to help sort things into categories for schedules or view templates, gives them color and stuff, and we can talk more about that. But this is the parameters that I need to have set up in there. And all I did was run a dynamo. And that is part of next month's discussion. And
hey, Donnia.
Yes.
Real quick question. There are some questions that came through.
Okay.
First, are some of the shared parameters that you loaded, or some of the parameters are you load? I start over. Are some of the parameters that you loaded shared parameters or family parameters?
The only family parameters I had were the length and the depth. I mean, the width and the depth. My power turned off too. The width and the depth are the only family parameters. These were all shared parameters. We do have some custom parameters. Parameters is big subject next month. The shared parameter file, I believe it should be locked down and not. Why are you laughing? Yes, I'm in control.
I agree.
I have the shared parameter. Yeah, it's not something you want to have everybody run loose on. And I will tell you how we got ways of letting people have some flexibility and stuff. That's next month. So got to keep coming back. So the things I could steal from, the object styles, the materials, I added my reference planes and dimensions, and the parameters were minimal for dimensions. And then I added my shared parameters that I use. And yes, we will discuss the dynamo in an upcoming community conversation. Next, you're going to want to save your template. And when you do save, it doesn't give you an option for an RFT, a Revit family template file. It just gives you an RFA. So you're going to save it as an RFA family, and then you're going to close the file, and then you're going to go rename it or copy it somewhere, and you can have the RFA and the RFT in there if you need to. And then you're going to secure a copy of the file somewhere in another location, back up. And then you're going to share the RFT with coworkers so that they can start building families too. That is, if you're not the only one that builds families. And I'm working on getting more people to do that too. So now that you have your first custom template, you're going to want to know your projects. You want to know your tags. You're going to want to know your schedules. These are the things you have to know to get these things in there. You're going to have to know your view templates so that you can set things up. And we'll talk more about like I said, with my clearances, they only show up in medium view, not in fine or coarse. Know your users. You know, my users are used to me putting up in constraints area. It becomes the top one in the instant parameters. That's where I put things that they can change. If I don't want them to change something, but it has to be an instant parameter, I put it in other. And one of the things I do in training is train them that if it's in other, it's for somebody other than you. See, you got to work with that. So you have to know your users and stuff and how they work. And then you can work with building your families consistently. And then you're going to build your first family with your template. And then I want you to send it out to the home wrecker. You guys know who you are. You're the ones that take the families and open them up and delete parameters and dimensions. You're the home wreckers. Send the family that you want to have tested to a home wrecker and have them test it for you. And lastly, I want you to come back next month for some more family counseling. I should get me a white coach. Okay, now we have reached the time for questioning, and I'll just throw this up here so you know what is coming up. I'm going to go over this briefly, but we've built, the base of the family. Next is bones and ligaments, or the reference planes and parameters, where I will show you the dynamo and how I got it and where it came from. I've gotten hold of him and I've got agreement. He can tell, I can link his stuff in there. The next one is going to be building muscles. We're going to talk extrusions and all kinds of things about anything having to do with building, sweeps, anything like that. The next one is materials and how to put some skin in the game. And then we've got some other plans for at least 3 more, but these are the ones that are scheduled. Don't forget to register for these. And now let's open it up for questions.
Okay, we have just a few minutes left. So if there are any questions, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Great. Yeah, we just have a few minutes left. I'm impressed that you got through all of that, even after losing you there for a few minutes. So congratulations on that. And yeah, you said you're going to send the where you got the Dynamo scripts. That would be great. Yes. Awesome. And so any other questions, Lord? I think most of the questions we were able to answer as we went along. There is a question, are the parameters from Excel via Dynamo? Yeah, you kind of answered that, come as shared parameters, yes.
Yeah, they have to, that's it. The one thing you have to make sure is you are locked in on your shared parameter file.
Yes.
Before you start building any families. And to run the Dynamo, you have to make sure you are with your shared parameter file.
Right.
And the Dynamo that I did, he has instructions on how to build those Excel files, because there's a certain way they have to be built. It's not just list them in there. There's a certain way they have to be built. And I referred to it often when I was working. And this was one of my first big Dynamos that I used more than anything else. I've got several little ones I've done, but I'm not a huge Dynamo person, so don't throw those questions at me, please.
Awesome.
Anything else?
Yeah, I'm not
Paul,
seeing
did you have any
anything else
questions?
come in?
Great job, Donnia. I like the way you were able to just come right back at it without missing a beat. So that's a true professional.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Okay, right. So we'll wrap it up here. If you want to jump to the next slide.
Yes.
Okay, and so you can go ahead and jump to the next slide. We're going to look at other ways that you can connect with our community. And so, first of all, we have our Autodesk group network. You can check that out online, and different meetups and things like that. We have our industry focused communities. And so if you go to our community site, then you can connect with specific industry colleagues and, discuss together. You have our Autodesk forums, and definitely check out the Revit ideas. You'll find me kind of hanging out in there quite a bit, working on getting those Revit ideas over to the product team for you. And then also you can follow and engage with us on Twitter, of course, at ADSK Community. And then, of course, then moving on, before you go, thank you so much, first of all, to Donnia, and definitely for Paul for putting in backup there. But thank you, Donnia, for putting this together. You did great. Thank you all for attending our revitalized community conversations. Feel free to continue to stay connected in the Autodesk community. And don't forget to RSVP for May, June, and July Revit Family Community Conversations. Thank you all so much. I hope you had a great time and were able to take something away from this today. Donnia, you did a great job. Thanks so much.
Thank you. Thank you all for coming.